Well, hey there, welcome back to another episode of Agent Success Secrets. Today I'm excited to share my longtime friend, mega agent, awesome rock star lady, Jill McNamee, who I have known for so long through training and classes and masterminds. And it's been, Jill, I think the cool thing about social media, although we know it can be so overwhelming and exhausting at times, it is a beautiful thing because I've gotten to keep up with you through all these years, seeing how great you are with connecting in your community, which I think is super cool. So just share with everyone who you are, where you are, what you do,
Yeah.
and we'll get started.
Well, so Jenny, I don't know if you remember this, but I don't even know how many years ago it was now, but we shared the same coach.
That's right.
That's how we first met, is we were in Drew's group
Yep.
of coaching clients. And so, of course, they always had events at family reunion and mega camp and all of that. So I believe that's how we met. I don't
That's
even know
right.
what year that was, um, but yeah, so anyway, my name is Jill McNamee. I've been a realtor for like 18 years now. I started in 2008 when every realtor was pretty much in my area getting out of the real estate business. Um, so yeah, I've had a long run and I've kind of done it all in my career. Like I started as a single agent. 4 years in, my adult son joined me and my team. And so he's been my business partner since 2012. And, at one point we grew a team of 12 and so I did the whole team thing. And then I was the PC for a while of my market center. I was the OP of my market center. And, it's funny because Jenny and I were talking before this event, and I'm like, I just feel like the last 4 years of my real estate career have been crazy in just this weird way of I went from, being a top agent in my community to, selling over 100 homes every year to now I'm just like a family team focusing more on really what I want to do with my real estate business. And so I'm kind of enjoying right now. It's me, my son, my husband joined my team 8 years ago, and we have one admin. And I don't even know how to say this, but I'm so much more relaxed. I realized at one point I was coaching with one of these coaches that was known for building massive, massive real estate teams. And on a call one day, he's like, this is my gift. And I really feel like you don't want what I'm wanting to help, where I'm wanting to help you get. Like, we need to figure this out. And like the next week, we showed up and fired him. And it's like, nope, this isn't what I want. I want to just have a smaller focus. And so that's what I've been doing since.
Well,
So
Jill,
it's just the four of us right now.
and you mentioned something which I know that most everyone can relate to. You shared with me a little bit of feeling some imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to allow you to know that no way, you're not an imposter. And that is what my mission is these days. It's about being in alignment. You got to do all the different wear all the different hats and have all the different roles, but at the end of the day, you realize what gave you the most joy. And I'll
Hmm.
just kind of lead us to what I think is an important topic that I've even observed you succeeding at, and that is just giving back to your community and your women's group and the
Hmm.
consistency that you've had there. So share with everyone kind of how that all started and how
Yeah.
that's still going.
Sure. Well, that sort of started for me. I got into the business in 2008, and like everyone else, they teach you how to write a contract. They don't teach you how to get your first listing. So
Yep.
I'm like, the first book I read, of course, was the Red Book. We all know that. I'm sure everyone here has read it. I realized really early on in my career that I needed to provide value to people. And that was how I was going to build my database. I live in a small community. There's 35,000 people in Hudson, Wisconsin, where I live. And so I already knew a good amount of people. I had owned a retail store in town for 4 years. So I was pretty connected. but I knew I needed to show up in a way to grow my database that would provide value to others. And there was already a women's networking group in my area, but there had already been a realtor there for years. And so I'm like, I don't want to just show up and be like, here I am, now I'm a realtor. So I'm just like, and I don't know, this might just be something of the personality in me, but I'm like, you know what, I want to be the leader anyway.
Yeah.
So, screw that. I'm not joining someone's group. I'm going and starting my own. I don't care if there's already a group here. There's enough sunshine for everyone. So that's really what started my whole journey down St. Croix Valley Girls. And I'm in the St. Croix Valley. That's my county. That's why it's called St. Croix Valley Girls. And back then I was a girl because that was almost 20 years ago. Now I'm 60. So I'm like, oh, maybe we should change the name of the group. But anyway, it's still going strong after 18 years. And honestly, I built my business one coffee appointment at a time. I
Mm,
used my St. Croix Valley Girls meetings that I had every month as a way to meet new people. And then I followed up. I just followed the 8x8 model
yeah. Well,
in the Red Book.
well then, okay. So for those that don't know all that you did, so you created a women's group, a networking. What did the flow of this look like? Is it once a month, once a
Yep.
quarter?
Yep. It's once a month.
Okay.
And, the idea of it was to be the un-BNI because, I love BNI, but one of the things that I had noticed about BNI is like, if you're not working well with the lender that's in that group, you're required to send them referrals. And I'm like, I need to be able to pick my own people. I love BNI's model for some people, that closed model. I didn't want to be that. I believe that there's enough sunshine for everyone. And, someone that wants to work with someone that's very, of my personality, they're not going to want to work with someone that's the opposite of me or vice versa. I'm probably too much for a lot of people. So I'm like, who am I to stand in the way of another realtor? Or, there can be multiple insurance agents, whatever, because I really believe that we pick who we're going to work with based on personality
Mhm.
and values, my core values. So I have an open group where I allow anyone to come. I do allow other realtors to come to my group. I don't invite them, but if they see my advertisement on social media, I'm like, yeah, I welcome them with open arms. I treat them the best that I can, but they never come back. They just never come back. And, I treat them really well. They just see that it's my tribe
Yeah.
and they don't ever come back.
So at the event, because I like details, so tell me if I was to implement this, like step by step, I'd pick a place. Is it always at the same place?
Yep, it's always at the same place. It's always the first Thursday of the month.
Hmm.
Always pick the same day so people don't have the excuse of, oh, I couldn't remember what day it is. They always know it's the first Thursday of the month. Always at the same place. I always have a speaker,
Hmm.
an educational speaker, because one thing that I've noticed in my real estate career is us realtors have tons and tons of free education at our disposal. Like insurance agents, chiropractors, dentists, they don't have that. Like they're clamoring for business education. And if
Right.
you can again give them value through education, they'll never forget you. So I have a speaker there every month. I do a catered lunch.
Hmm.
I charge $20 for them to come to the meeting.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I do like having the skin in the game that they pay in advance. Is it through
yeah.
Eventbrite or something like that?
Yep, I use Eventbrite.
Yeah.
And, I always like to encourage them to bring guests. So if they're a first timer and they pay at the door, they still get to pay the $25. But if you're somebody who's a regular and you don't sign up ahead, you're paying 25 at the door instead of 20 because
Uh,
it's too hard to do the catering.
that's right. Yeah.
I'm trying to really encourage them to sign up using
Yeah.
the Eventbrite link.
So
So,
so at the flow of the luncheon, it's a lunch.
yep.
What's the time frame?
Well, doors open at 11:30 or
Mhm.
11:15. The meeting starts at 11:30 and then we go till 1.
Okay, so they're getting
Mhm.
to network, connect, get
Yep.
educated, have a good time with other ladies in the
Yep. And then
community.
usually they're all lingering after. I mean, I usually on St. Croix Valley Girl Day, I leave my office at like 10 and I'm not back till like 2:30.
What a beautiful way to spend your day, though.
It
That's what I,
is though. It's my
yeah.
favorite day of the month.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
from that, Jill, you got to learn the value of giving back to your community and growing your database. So I'd assume most of your business always came by way of referral.
Yes. Yep.
So
Mhm.
let's talk a little bit about your database love and how you stayed connected with your people.
Well, I mean, the beauty of having a group like this is they're getting 3 emails a month from me just
Mhm.
about the St. Croix Valley Girls meeting. So
Yeah,
there's that. The other thing is I have a Facebook group for women business professionals in the area because at one point after COVID, like we were getting before COVID, we were having anywhere between 55 and 65 women attend every month, and then COVID happened. So after COVID, I'm like, why do I not have a Facebook group to
right.
attract new members? So that kind of came as sort of an offshoot of the group, but it's a great way to use it as lead gen because when you segment your database, like I have them tagged separately, but if you set them next to a normal just person in my database that might be a male, just say it's someone I know who owns a business, but they're a male, they're not a female. The female, if you're part of my St. Croix Valley Girls, like you're probably getting touched 100 times a year
Right.
for sure. Because not only am I sending them St. Croix Valley Girls stuff, I'm also inviting them to all my events. I'm, doing all my other touches that I normally do for them.
I love all this. So, Jill, talk to me about as you have matured in life and your kiddos are grown, and this is the phase that I'm in now, obviously. I talk about it all
Yes.
the time. And so, this new life that we have, it just kind of opens up to clarity and focus of what truly matters most. So, teach us some of the lessons of almost 20 years in this business.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think the biggest piece of it, because, when I was in like heavy build mode, especially when I was working with that one coach who was, I had been taught to, the next natural step, especially when my son joined my team, it was kind of like a forced growth moment for me because I was functioning as a single agent. I didn't even have an admin. And the next thing I know, like now I'm responsible for him and what he needs to learn. And so we just were like, well, the natural next step is to build a team.
Right.
And, what I didn't realize at the time was you needed to have leadership skills to be able to build a team.
Yeah.
You know this, you have a team.
Yes.
Going from being a good salesperson to going to being a good team leader, or mostly hiring in my part, but
Yeah.
it's not always natural.
Mhm.
And so then I kind of discovered that I'm a driver, I'm a doer, and like I just get it done. And I always struggled with the people on my team because like we talked about talent and how hard it is to find good talent in your local area. If you are wanting to build a team, nobody would ever work as hard as me. And they never, I could show them and teach them and whatever, but it's like
Yeah.
so I felt like I was let down all the time. And I
Mhm.
was struggling with me wanting it more for them than they wanted it for themselves. So
Mm.
this is when I kind of just became clear. And I'm like, for the longest time, I wanted to be number one in my area. I mean, it's why I got up every day and did what I did. And then once I think things really changed for me when I started having grandkids. And I'm like, you know what? If I make a good living and I love what I do every day, why do I need to be number one?
Yeah.
Like, does that really matter?
Mm.
And so I really, it's not like I stopped tracking or anything like that, but it became less of a obsession for me. And what became more important was me just enjoying life
Yeah.
and giving back to my community and, doing all my lead gen that was what my passions are.
Yeah.
Like now my passions, like I just had a micro event. I taught them all how to make those hand knit chunky blankets, but it was the perfect thing. And
Yeah.
like I never mentioned real estate. Of course, real estate came up,
Yeah.
but I provided value to them doing something I love to do. So that to me is probably my biggest lesson, is that don't listen or don't feel like you have to be what everyone else thinks you should be.
Yeah.
And I just made that realization to be like I don't need to be number one. I don't want to have a team. That's not what I want to do.
The problem
And
is we have our identity all tied up inside of that success, especially if you've
yes,
had it at one point, then not having
yes,
it is just there's this gap. And I totally agree with you on the growing of a team is kind of like just that natural progression because it does happen where you have more leads and have more business, you have more people to serve, and you still have a passion for that. But then you just get
mhm,
to the why am I doing all of this? What is it for?
right.
Yeah.
Well, and then the other thing is, I'm so wired about showing up and giving and providing the level of service that I wanted to provide. There were times when my team members were not showing up in the way that I needed them to be showing up. And then it's like, okay, that's reflecting on me.
Hmm.
So I don't know. I just, like I said, it just was a timing thing.
Yeah.
And then of course some opportunity came up for me to have some leadership roles within my market center and stuff. So, that was all kind of happening at the same time.
How I ended up, you shared inside of a Facebook group, I'm sure that's where I saw it. You had shared your daily revenue routine that I
Yeah,
was like, okay, Jill, I need you to come on. I need you to share it. Now, don't worry, I'm going to share this with everyone. But
yeah,
talk about that because I think that's what also helped you stay in alignment with doing what mattered most in your joy zone while still
yeah.
having consistency in your real estate
For
business.
sure. So this actually started with a conversation with Drew, because when I had, these agents on my team, and, it would be a constant weekly battle with Drew to be like, how do I've taught them everything. I've taught them how to call expireds. I've taught them what to say to the first sale by owners. Like they're just not getting it. They show up at the office and they're not like lead generating. And he's like, do they really know what to do?
Yeah.
Like to the point where they show up every day and there's a list of people they call or what they do. And so this is when I sort of took like what some of the MAPS coaches call the daily success plan and kind of made it my own. And it's like it's again clarity around like, who are you supposed to call today? Because some days I was showing up at my desk and I was like, okay, do I call expireds? Do I call my St. Croix Valley Girls Sphere people? Do I just call my past client? Like, who do
Yeah.
I call today? And I would spend so much time at the beginning of my day arguing with myself about who am I in the mood for today? Well,
Yeah.
most days I wasn't in the mood for anyone. So I would find that I'm like burying myself in my email or these other things that were getting in the way of my lead gen. So I really had to like simplify it for them and be like, okay, this is the plan. And I would sit with each of them and we created their plan together so
Mhm.
that if they hated cold calling, I'm not going to encourage them to put cold calling or calling FISBOs or expireds on their
Yeah.
plan, you
Right.
know?
Right.
So I've kind of lived by this since back in the day when we had that conversation to be like, well, what can I do that's still moving my business forward that I actually enjoy doing?
Yeah, I love it. And it's again, it's that clarity and focus. And I agree. And you and I have been in the business long enough and still we go, Where do I start today? But if we've
Yeah.
planned the day before or the week ahead of time where we know this is my focus, this is the message I'm going to share and who I'm going to talk to,
Mhm.
it just makes everything so much easier. So I'll make sure and share that with everyone.
Yeah, definitely share that. I think there's one like my version that's like
Yep.
filled out with ideas, and then the second page is a template for them to fill in on their
Yep.
own.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love
Mhm.
it.
But I
Well,
feel like, that's the challenge with agents. The number one reason why they're not successful is they don't have the consistency that they need to get off that runway. They'll show up for one day and do a bold 100, and then they don't lead gen again for the next 60 days.
that's
And then
right.
they wonder like why their businesses aren't taking off. So anyway, it just works for me. It keeps everything, based on what I like to do in terms of lead gen.
And
So,
I think that is absolutely the key. As we wrap up here, is there anything, final words, final thoughts, things that we didn't talk about that definitely you want to make sure and share with our friends here that might be watching?
well, yeah, I mean, there's a couple of other things that I really like to do when you talk about like a hyper local business is partnering with other business owners in my community that maybe don't come to my St. Croix Valley Girls, like restaurants, things like
Mhm.
that. But one of the things that I really like to do is partner with them and do the coupons. So I do a
Yeah,
coupon for a free pizza. It's got my logo and the pizza. But by doing partnerships with them, it allows you the opportunity to go approach them in a way that, like, who's going to say no? They're going to want to be in relationship. So I ask myself every day, like, if I'm the pizza store owner, if Jill walks in and says she's a realtor, like, they're going to be totally unimpressed. They aren't going to care. But if I walk in and say, hey, I have this great partnership program that we can do together, I'll help promote you, you know, they love it. And it's a great way to make lead generating like not icky because you're offering something of value. So I guess
I love that.
the last words would be just ask yourself, how am I providing value with how I'm showing up in the world? Because if you're touching people, I hear some agents are touching their people like 3 times a week. That, like, in order for a person to accept a touch 3 times a week, it has to be valuable content that you're sending.
Yeah, 100%. So be
Yeah.
valuable and be you is what I'm
Yes,
hearing.
for
So
sure.
I love this conversation. I know we could talk a lot longer. We're going to wrap it up for now, and I'll make sure and share ways that everybody can connect with you and also your daily revenue routine. Thank you, Jill, so much.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on.
You bet.